Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. It is official, Marved has joined Sentinels as their substitute player going forward, with SicK still in a predicament we shall dive into. What does this mean for Sentinels going forward, if any roster changes they might decide to make, but also NRG, reckoning Marved might have snaked them a little bit, deciding not to join their organisation, despite the history he had with those individual players. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always. They announced yesterday the logo for the EMEA VALORANT Champions Tour region, which, I mean, I don't really understand. I mean, it looks so boring and plain, I don't really know. Whatever, it's a logo at the end of the day. It starts on March the 27th, but also must be noted in the EMEA region in general, things aren't looking so good. There's many organisations that have left the most prestigious Challenger League in Europe over the last couple of days, and honestly, I'm meant to cover this, which I do on a daily basis, and I still can't quite wrap my head around what goes on in Europe in terms of the Tier 2 scene. Tier 2 in North America is quite clear. There's a Challengers League, there's 12 teams in it, and it makes a lot of sense. In Europe, you've got like 10 leagues, there's different leagues per different regions, and then you've got like, I mean, I don't know how many viewers they really are to spread across that, and I guess it gets to the point where it's just straight up not profitable, because you've got the East side, you've got the Surge, you got this like France Revolution League, like you got the VCLs, like the VLRs or whatever it's called. There's so much stuff going on in Europe, it's like impossible to actually keep up with, in my opinion at least. I have no idea what's going on half the time. I'm not surprised some of these teams are kind of dipping out just because there isn't the viewership to go around, I imagine, and surely they should just go for what North America have, like a clear, distinct Tier 2 with 12 or even more teams. Surely that makes more sense. Maybe you guys disagree in the comments below. This also even bleed though. They said yesterday, now, of course, we heard rumours in the off-season that Ye had said that he had $1 million offer from a certain team in the Pacific, or at least that was rumoured. I don't know if Ye said that, but it was rumoured, and then I think Ye confirmed that it was true, and people said it might be bleed because apparently they've got an awful lot of money on their hands. Now, obviously, also they say Ye, another announcement tomorrow. People thought, oh my god, is Ye going to join this team? What's going to happen if they paid him like an absolutely huge amount of money or whatever? But yes, no, yet at the very least, because they confirmed that in fact that announcement was this one, with Dephh joining these guys and making a little bit of a roster change. So no Ye going anywhere yet. Ye hasn't really tweeted in a couple of weeks now, so we have no real update yet on the situation at Cloud9 or for Ye going forwards. We do, however, have some scrimbucks for Cloud9. They were scrimming the Moist Moguls last night and spotted that Nerve is still here. So Cloud9 Zeltis, zyppan, Leaf, and Nerve. We think maybe Rooney is going to stay as their IGL, and Nerve might be the player. I think they trialed Nerve a few days ago. They're now coming back to him. So this might be the final iteration of their team. I guess we'll see, because if they trial a few players and then Nerve makes the return, they've got to be confident he's probably the man to go with going forwards. But it's kind of funny in a way that, what, 40% if Nerve and Rooney are there will be former Sonics players. So, I mean, look, I don't really know what they're doing. I don't really like it necessarily, but they have to make their decision relatively quickly, just because at the end of the day, the qualifiers are coming up relatively shortly, or the start of the first split is coming up relatively shortly. Many other teams have had their roster locked for months, and Cloud9 are getting it sorted relatively last minute, all things considered. So they've got a couple of weeks to absolutely fully determine things, but that might well be what their roster is going to be. And even I thought it was interesting that here's Vanity on stream. Spotted, of course, no longer involved, and even Ye's in his own custom lobby here. Like, it's still got Cloud9 in his name, but of course, you know, not in their games any longer going forward. Also, confirmation from NRG that Thwifo is gone. We saw yesterday that, you know, Thwifo was more than likely going to be removed, and of course, he was there as the substitute player, but now I guess they want to make a change in that specific position, and potentially Exalt is going to be that guy, just because Chet replies to Exalt yesterday and says, let's go to work on the alarm clock first, brother. So, I don't know, but yeah, just want to keep in mind that Exalt, after getting released by Disguised recently and then making the change over there, might well join NRG as their substitute. That might make a fair bit of sense for both parties going forward. Also, an update therefore, because look, at the end of the day, this Marved situation wouldn't be happening if the SicK situation wasn't happening in the first place. We know that during the Sao Paulo event, the lock-in, SicK was, you know, the team didn't want SicK to be with them at the venue, because I guess they didn't want that influence in their account, which is maybe understandable given what we now know. After the event concluded, he went to this Ferrari dealership and he was arrested for trespassing, and he's been in jail, it seems, ever since. I think for like 8 or 9 days at this point. And it's a surprise to me, just because people expected, oh, you know, someone's going to bail him out. But I think the predicament potentially has been that if he has no family local, then bailing him out does not exactly help him necessarily. So I think that Sentinels, after a lot of questions as to whether Sentinels are going to help SicK out in this sense, because they said that they're trying to do what they can to support SicK, but that doesn't seem so valid if they don't help him in this way necessarily. and I guess their plan has been to ensure that he's got a support network locally. So therefore, when he is released from jail, then, you know, he's at least got a support network locally, right? The article goes on to say here that the organization will attempt to bail him out over the coming days. Representatives from the organization are set to pay the bail, which is set at $5,000, to release him from jail and pay for Mim's sister to fly out to Dallas, Texas to visit him in person. Sentinels were cautious that Mims would be left alone if he was bailed out without family members nearby. So that's the update on that front. But of course, with all this going on, SicK has been suspended from duty as their substitute player, and therefore they need a replacement man, because they have to have a replacement now. They have to have a sixth man on the team, and that man is going to be Marved. Confirmation therefore came through last night from Marved himself. He's like, oh wow, George Geddes isn't guessing this time. Crazy stuff. And indeed, he is going to be joining Sentinels. Confirmed yesterday, man's a Sentinel now. So pretty cool stuff. Now, we know that Marved, one of his main reasons for not wanting to compete this season at the start of it was that he didn't want to move out to LA, really. He wants to stay in Toronto. Now, of course, with this role, being the sub player here, can also still stream, gets the Sentinels clout. Like, it works in many different angles for Marved and I think for the organization itself. But, you know, he still wants to stay in Toronto, which is fine, right? But still, down the line, if he wants to compete on this level, given the fact that all the matches occur in LA, he would have to move there if he wants to compete. Now, of course, I think Marv made it clear initially that, look, he wants to compete at some point, but for now, he wanted to take a bit of a break. He's done exactly that. Now he's officially been signed to a team as a substitute player. Technically, he's a pro player again in this sense, and therefore he could come in at some point. It's not unheard of course, that teams will make changes and bring in one of the players on their bench, if not the only player on their bench, to the starting team if they want to make a move, and now that becomes the most likely possibility for Sentinels if they struggle going forward. If they don't have a great time going forwards and they want to make changes, the obvious candidate is to bring Marved in, and it's not out of the realms of possibility that Sentinels will consider changes down the line. Wonder what you guys think as well about the whole relationship here with NRG, just because NRG, Crashies, Victor, FNS, they formerly played with Marved on OpTic with Ye, of course, and there was a question, could Marved come in place of Som? Could Ye come in place of Ardis, run it back again with OpTic Gaming like they had last year? That seemed unlikely to me, but still, NRG Marved, given the fact that they were getting rid of Thryfo, was like, oh damn, are they getting Marved in because he wants to join a team again? I don't know, but seemingly not. Crashies just kind of, they were joking around here, right, about he snaked him and stuff, but still, there must be a part of NRG that think, oh damn, Marved isn't joining us, but he's joining one of our chief competitors, because like, NRG might be the best team in NA, but Sentinels have some great firepower. They should be up there as well. At some point, Marved might be in that starting team. Thought it was pretty funny here, right, Sentinels? You're all good with us bringing a bit on stage, because yeah, this guy was basically playing in this setup last night, which is pretty upsetting as well. So he absolutely does it all, of course, this Marved character. But what does this mean going forward for this actual roster itself? Because even as Zom says in the replies here, the three best controllers on the same organization. So what he's kind of saying here is that himself, right, Zoms, Marved now, but also Pancada, all on the same organization. Now, Marved is not exclusively going to have to be a controller player. He's a very versatile player, potentially. He's obviously been great on that controller role for OpTic, but I think he could do other roles as well and still be very effective. As long as he's not a duelist, I think he'll probably be okay. And therefore, it does raise that, like, he's a flexible guy. And therefore, Sentinels have questions to answer if they don't impress particularly highly. Right now, of course, Zekken's going to stay. There's no doubt TenZ is going to stay. They brought Sassy Pancada in for a reason. Dephh, there's been some questions about, especially just because we know the drama between SicK and Deph's wife on social media and all this type of stuff, and between Dephh himself, because I think SicK like blocked Dephh and all this drama. But of course, that's kind of irrelevant and a mute point now. And in fairness, Dephh is obviously very well liked by the coaching staff over there, SicK, because SicK came over from Exet with Zekken and Dephh, of course. So I know that many have said, oh, you know, just drop Zekken, make Sassy the IGL and bring Marved in and make the roles work with Pancada, which I think is a valid option and could work if the team is struggling and if they feel like, you know what, Dephh as the IGL just straight up isn't going to work for these characters. But I feel like, you know, just getting rid of Dephh already would make really no sense at the moment, and I feel like that's not the most likely possibility, but it is a possibility at least that Sassy could maybe IGL, and if Deph's thing isn't really working, then maybe there's a possibility there, but I doubt it's going to happen based on the relationships that I just mentioned. But that's one way that Marved could get in, because he's not going to get in for Pancada in a 1-for-1 swap, you would think, because I don't know if that makes sense for Pancada or for Sassy, really. They would have to make some roster changes or some role changes as a result to make that transition happen. But nonetheless, all options are on the table, and this is, of course, one step closer for Marved to making the full-time return on a full-time capacity to a starting roster. As I say, though, given that he's in Toronto, wants to stay in Toronto? When is he going to change his mind? Because I'm guessing in order to make this happen, they're allowing him to stay in Toronto and stream. However, if he was ever required to actually substitute in, because that is part of his contract, he would have to get out there to LA on relatively short notice, and if they ever wanted to bring him into the starting team, then that would effectively be mandated. But of course, like, Marv knows how good he is, knows how high his stock is, and probably at some point will return, and of course Sentinels now are the chief candidate to make exactly that happen. So very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.